So design paradigms are design techniques that underlie many algorithms, and we will see a lot of these design paradigms in this course, including brute force, divide and conquer, and dynamic programming. The greedy method, where you build a large solution by building subparts of the solution, and at each point you grow this solution using a very greedy method, and it turns out that the greedy method is actually the right thing to do in several situations, and you'll actually get good algorithms. There's also decrease and conquer and reductions, which are other techniques. So of course, when we are looking at these design paradigms, we will look at particular problems to solve. And so there are many different problem types we'll look at in this course. These are not disjoint. I mean, some of them are actually, you can classify some problems as, for example, as both combinatorial problems and graph problems, right? But in general, we have these different problem types. Sorting is basically taking a sequence of elements and writing and rearranging them so that they are in ascending order. Searching is you're given a set of numbers, let's say, or a set of data, and you're trying to search for one element in the in this data. String processing is another important application where these problems are really about finding matches of patterns in strings. And for example, in biology applications, these are now very useful because you can think of DNA sequences as sequences of C, G, A, and T, and then people are interested in finding patterns in this sequence which might indicate that there is some disease or something like that. There are also a class of problems called graph problems that we'll study. Basically, many problems in computer science can be modeled as a graph problem. A graph is a set of vertices with edges connecting them. Perhaps there's a direction to these edges as well, and we can look at several graph problems. One interesting graph problem is the traveling salesperson problem, which is that these nodes indicate cities, and you would like a traveling salesperson wants to visit all the cities, and there are edges which could define the cost or distances between cities, right? And you would like to see if give this salesperson a particular path which minimizes the cost of traversing through all cities. There are also a class of problems which are generally called combinatorial problems. Here you're asking for a combinatorial object which usually requires you to enumerate subsets or a combination of elements in a set, right? And these problems are ubiquitous. For example, if I wanted to have a graph, I have a graph and I wanted to know whether I can assign some set of colors to this graph, right? Such that if I take any edge, the nodes on the opposite opposite sides of this edge have a different color. And I could ask what is the minimum number of colors using which I can color a graph. And this is actually a combinatorial problem which is well known. There are also a bunch of geometric problems that are interesting. So these involve problems about points and lines in some space. For example, if I gave you a set of points in two-dimensional space and asked you what is the smallest convex hull containing this set of points, then that is a very interesting problem in geometry, right? And for example, in visual applications, you might be looking at a picture, right? And you might decide that there are certain points in your picture, and you might want to find the convex hull in order to figure out what shape the object defines. And this can be very useful in graphics and vision, right? And then we have a bunch of problems called numerical problems, which are especially for simulating continuous behavior for let's say simulating physics or simulating the real world. So if you wanted to build a way to predict weather, you might use a very large simulation system involving differential equations and so on, right? And these are usually solved numerically, and these numerical problems are of course very important. For example, you could ask how a protein folds, or how some protein replicates, or how the weather will behave using such simulations. So now let's turn to where algorithms fit into the general software engineering picture. So when you go into the real world and work on in a place where you're doing software engineering, you'll realize that a large software system is actually made up of a lot of components. I mean, so there'll be networking in the system. There'll be libraries that uses. There'll be a web component. There'll be a database component for storing files in some way so that you can access them easily. There'll be a user interface and so on. But typically, many of these software systems have a core set of algorithms that run the whole system. Okay, and let me give you two examples. Suppose you take web search. If you go to Google or Bing and you do a web search, the whole software system that's there is pretty complex. But if you look at deep inside, there's a key algorithm which indexes all the web pages on the internet. It indexes in a certain way so that when you search for a keyword, it can search very fast, and also a ranking system which can rank which are the best results very fast, and that's the core algorithm in a web search routine. Take another example is this mech system that you're looking at, right? This video, for example, that you're looking at. This video, and around it there is a lot of user interface. There are buttons you can click, and there's a cloud platform where it's hosted and so on. But if you look at the video itself, the key algorithm is an MP4 compression algorithm that makes sure that you can view these videos in using very little bandwidth and at reasonable speed. There's a lot of algorithms that go into compressing the video, because a lot of the parts of the screen do not change. You can utilize it to compress it and actually build very good algorithms for video rendering. So to conclude, this course, which is on algorithm design and analysis, is really a course on how to think computationally. It in some sense forms the core of computational thinking, right? And this is something we hope to rewire your brain, right, so that your brain can now really think in terms of computing, and this will be useful for your entire career as a computer engineer.